My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the mop. Everyone in that courtroom was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had, because I was a janitor, 42 years old, couldn't even afford new shoes. And I just stood up in front of a judge, in front of lawyers in $1,000 suits, in front of a woman who owned buildings I'd never be able to afford a single room in, and I said 5 words that changed both our lives forever. "I will protect her, sir." They laughed. All of them laughed, except her. She looked at me like I was the first person in months who'd seen her as human instead of just money to fight over. My name is Thomas Wade, and this is the story of how a janitor with nothing became the only thing standing between a billionaire and complete destruction. I need to tell you something that still doesn't feel real, something that happened 6 months ago in a courtroom downtown, something that proved everything I thought I knew about power and worth and what it means to stand up for someone when the whole world is sitting down. My name is Thomas Wade. I'm 42 years old. I clean office buildings for a living, have for 17 years. It's honest work, hard work, the kind nobody notices until it's not done. I mop floors at 4 a.m. when the city's still sleeping, empty trash cans, wipe down windows, make spaces clean so important people can do important things without thinking about who made it possible. I'm invisible. That's the truth. People look through me, not because they're mean, just because that's how the world works. When you wear a janitor's uniform and push a cart full of cleaning supplies, you become part of the background, part of the building. Not quite a person, just a function. I'm okay with that. Been okay with it for a long time. It's quiet work, lets me think, lets me listen to audiobooks while I clean, lets me exist without pressure or performance or pretending to be something I'm not. But 6 months ago, that invisibility became the most important thing I ever had, because it meant I saw things other people missed, heard things other people ignored, knew things about someone that the whole world thought they understood, but really didn't understand at all. Her name was Elena Hartley, and she was dying in slow motion while everyone watched and did nothing. I first saw her 3 years ago. I worked nights at the Hartley building downtown, 12-story office complex, real estate holdings, investment portfolios, the kind of money that builds cities. Her father built it, started with one property and turned it into an empire, died 5 years back, left everything to his 2 children, Elena and her brother. She got the buildings, he got the investments, both worth millions. Should have been enough for anybody. Should have been the end of the story. 2 siblings running their father's legacy, 2 different paths, both successful. But it wasn't enough, not for Marcus, because he wanted what she had, wanted control, wanted the buildings, wanted the name, wanted everything. I didn't know any of this at first, just knew her as the woman who came in late, who worked in her office on the 7th floor long after everyone else went home, who sometimes cried when she thought nobody was around. I'd see her through the glass walls, sitting at her desk, head in her hands, shoulders shaking. Then she'd stop, wipe her face, go back to work like nothing happened, like she was fine, like she wasn't breaking. I never said anything, wasn't my place. I was the janitor, she was the owner. We existed in different worlds that happened to overlap during my shift, that's all. But I noticed, couldn't help but notice, because pain recognizes pain. And I knew what it looked like when someone was barely holding on, when they were fighting battles nobody else could see, when they were drowning in public but dying in private. I knew because I'd been there. Different circumstances, same feeling. My wife died 7 years ago, cancer, 38 years old, left me with 2 daughters to raise alone. Those first years were survival, working, parenting, existing in this fog of grief and responsibility, and pretending I was okay for my girls, even though I was shattered. So yeah, I recognized it in Elena. That specific kind of breaking, The kind where you keep going because you have to, because stopping means admitting you can't handle it, and admitting that feels like the final defeat. The trouble started getting visible about 8 months ago. I'd come in for my shift and there'd be people in suits, lawyers, always lawyers, coming and going from her office, leaving her looking more exhausted each time, more defeated, more alone. Then the meetings got worse, yelling. I could hear it even with the doors closed, Marcus's voice mostly, loud, aggressive, demanding, and Elena's voice, quiet, trying to reason, trying to explain, trying to defend herself against accusations I didn't understand. The other workers started talking. I'd hear them during shift changes, gossip, speculation. Marcus was challenging the will, said their father wasn't in his right mind when he divided things, said Elena manipulated him, convinced him to give her the buildings even though Marcus deserved them, said she was unfit, unstable, incapable of running the company. All lies from what I could tell, but lies backed by lawyers and money and family drama that played out like some twisted TV show, except it was real life and real consequences. The building started feeling different, tense, people choosing sides, some supporting Elena, others quietly backing Marcus because he had power and connections and the kind of aggressive confidence that makes people believe he must be right. Elena got quieter, stopped coming to company meetings, stopped engaging with employees, just worked in her office alone, signing papers, taking calls, fighting a battle she was clearly losing. I wanted to say something, to ask if she was okay, to offer, I don't know what, comfort, support, but I was the janitor. What could I possibly say that would matter? What could I offer that would help? So I stayed quiet, did my job, watched her fade. Then came the hearing, the big one, the final custody hearing for the company. That's what Marcus called it, like the buildings were a child being fought over in divorce court. Whoever won got control, got the name, got everything their father built. It was scheduled for March 14th. I knew because I'd heard Elena on the phone, talking to her lawyer, a man named Richard Voss, expensive lawyer, the kind with a reputation, the kind who doesn't lose. She sounded hopeful that day, actual hope in her voice. Said Richard had found something, some evidence that proved Marcus was lying, that proved their father was clear-minded, that proved Elena deserved what she'd been given. I remember feeling relieved for her, like maybe this nightmare was ending, like maybe she'd win and could finally rest. I was so stupid. The hearing was at 10 a.m. I wasn't there, was sleeping. Night shift workers sleep during the day. But I got a call at 11:30 from my supervisor, said there was an emergency, needed me to come in early, some kind of situation at the courthouse. I got there by 12:15. The hearing was still going. I wasn't supposed to go in, but the main janitor was sick. They needed someone to handle a spill, some kind of water leak in the hallway outside the courtroom. Stupid reason, but it got me inside. I was mopping near the doors when I heard yelling, muffled, coming from inside the courtroom. Then the doors opened, people filing out, lunch break maybe. I kept working, staying invisible, doing my job. That's when I saw her, Elena, walking out with her lawyer. Except he wasn't walking with her, he was walking away. Briefcase in hand, phone to his ear, leaving, just leaving. She followed him, voice quiet but desperate. "Richard, please, you said you'd help me. You said we had a case." He turned, looked at her with this cold expression. "I'm withdrawing my representation. You can't pay me. Your accounts are frozen pending the judgment. I'm not working for free."
But we're in the middle of the hearing. You can't just leave.
I can, and I am. Find another lawyer, or represent yourself. Not my problem anymore. He walked away. Just walked away. Left her standing there in the courthouse hallway. Alone, abandoned, destroyed. She stood there for a long moment. Just stood there. People walking past, nobody stopping, nobody caring. Then she sat down on a bench, put her face in her hands, and cried. Not loud, quiet crying. The kind that hurts worse because you're trying to hide it, even though you're falling apart. I finished mopping, stood there holding my mop,
Looking at this woman who owned buildings and companies and millions of dollars, who had power and status and everything society says matters. And she was alone, completely alone. Everyone had left her. I thought about walking away, about minding my business, about staying invisible like I always did. But I kept seeing my wife in that hospital, when the treatment stopped working, when the doctors stopped trying, when hope ran out, and all we had left was time. And I remembered feeling alone even though I wasn't, because the loneliness of losing comes from inside, from knowing you're fighting something you can't beat. Elena looked like that, like she was fighting something too big, too powerful, too impossible. I walked over, stood in front of her. She didn't notice at first. Then she looked up, saw me, the janitor, the invisible man who cleaned her building. "You okay?" Stupid question. Obviously she wasn't. She wiped her face, tried to compose herself. "I'm fine, thank you." "You don't look fine." She laughed, bitter laugh. "No, I'm not. My lawyer just quit. My brother is trying to take everything my father built, and I'm about to lose because I can't afford to fight anymore. So no, I'm not fine." I sat down next to her. Probably inappropriate, probably crossing some line, but I didn't care. What happens if you go back in there without a lawyer? I lose, automatically. The judge won't let me represent myself in something this complex. Marcus wins by default, gets everything, and I get nothing. Not the buildings, not the company, not even my father's name, just debt and shame and proof that I was never good enough. Her voice broke on those last words. Never good enough. That phrase, I knew that phrase, had said it to myself 1,000 times after my wife died, when I couldn't figure out how to braid my daughter's hair, when I burned dinner, when I forgot permission slips, when I failed at being both parents. Never good enough. "That's not true," I said quietly. "You're good enough. This isn't about worth. It's about money, about systems, about your brother being cruel. None of that means you're not enough." She looked at me, really looked at me, like she was seeing me for the first time. "Why do you care? You don't even know me." "I know enough. I've worked in your building for 3 years. I've seen you stay late, work hard, care about people. I've seen you fight for that company every single night while the rest of the world was sleeping. That's enough for me to know you deserve better than this." She started crying again. "I don't know what to do. I can't go back in there alone. Can't face Marcus and his lawyers without help. Can't defend myself against lies I can't prove are false. I've lost. I just have to accept it." No, the word came out harder than I meant. You don't accept it. You fight. With what? I don't have money, don't have a lawyer, don't have anything. You have the truth. You have your father's legacy. You have every reason to walk back in there and make them see you're not giving up. "And who's going to help me do that? You?" She said it like a joke, like the idea was absurd. And it was absurd. I was a janitor. No legal training, no money, no power, nothing that mattered in a courtroom. But I'd made a promise to myself years ago, after my wife died, after I failed her by not being able to save her. I promised I'd never watch someone suffer alone again, never stand by while someone needed help, even if I couldn't fix it, even if all I could do was stand beside them. "Yeah," I said, "me." She stared at me. "You're serious?" "Completely." "You can't. You're not a lawyer. You're a janitor." "I know, but I can stand next to you. I can be there so you're not alone. I can be a witness that you didn't give up, that you fought until the end. Maybe that won't change the outcome, but at least you won't face it alone." She looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay." We walked back into that courtroom at 1:15 p.m. The judge was already there. Marcus and his lawyers sitting on one side, confident, smug, winning. Elena sat down. I stood behind her, visible now, not hiding, not invisible, just there. The judge looked at me. "Who are you?" "Thomas Wade, sir. I'm here to support Miss Hartley. Are you her legal counsel? No, sir. I'm a janitor, but she shouldn't be alone, so I'm here. The courtroom went quiet, people staring, Marcus's lawyers whispering, Marcus himself looking confused, angry, like my presence was an insult. The judge frowned. Mr. Wade, this is highly irregular. You can't just stand in as representation. I'm not representing her, sir. I'm just standing with her. She has a right to have someone here, someone who believes in her. That's me. Marcus stood up. Your Honor, this is ridiculous. He's a janitor. He has no business being here. This is a legal proceeding, not a charity case. Sit down, Mr. Hartley, the judge said. Looked at me. Mr. Wade, you understand you can't speak on her behalf, can't make legal arguments, can't participate in the proceedings. Yes, sir, I understand. I'm just here so she knows someone cares. The judge nodded slowly. Very well, but you will remain silent. This is Miss Hartley's case to present. I sat down next to Elena. She was shaking, terrified, but not alone, not anymore. The hearing continued. Marcus's lawyers presented their case. Same lies, same accusations. Elena manipulated their father, convinced him to divide things unfairly, wasn't capable of running the company, should forfeit everything. They had documents, testimonials, evidence that looked damning if you didn't know the truth. Then it was Elena's turn. She stood up, voice shaking, started talking about her father, about his vision, about how she'd worked beside him for years, learned from him, earned his trust, about how Marcus had barely been involved, had only shown interest after their father got sick, after the will was written. Marcus's lawyers tore her apart, objected to everything, demanded proof, demanded evidence, demanded things she didn't have because her lawyer had abandoned her and taken all the files. The judge looked troubled, sympathetic but bound by law. Miss Hartley, without supporting documentation, I can't rule in your favor. The burden of proof is on you to show your father's intentions. Without that proof. He trailed off. Everyone knew what came next. She'd lose. Marcus would win. Everything would be over. That's when I stood up. Your Honor? Everyone turned. The judge, the lawyers, Marcus, Elena, all staring at me. Mr. Wade, the judge said slowly, you were told to remain silent. I know, sir, and I apologize, but I have something to say, something that matters. This is highly inappropriate. I worked in that building for 3 years. Every night, I saw things, heard things. I can testify to Miss Hartley's character, to her dedication, to the truth about her relationship with her father. Marcus's lawyer stood. Objection. This man has no legal standing. His testimony is irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, I said, my voice stronger now. I was there. I saw her working at 2 a.m., saw her crying because she was trying so hard to honor her father's legacy, saw her refuse buyout offers because she wouldn't let someone else destroy what he built. I saw her brother show up only when he wanted something, saw him yell at her, threaten her, try to break her. I saw him, I interrupted, loud now. 2 months ago, November 18th, I was cleaning the 7th floor, heard yelling, saw Marcus in her office. He told her to sign over the company or he'd destroy her, said he'd make her look incompetent, said their father was senile and she'd manipulated her. I heard every word, and I saw her refuse, saw her tell him their father knew exactly what he was doing, saw her choose integrity over peace.
The courtroom erupted. Marcus yelling, his lawyers objecting, the judge banging his gavel. Order! I will have order. Everyone went quiet. The judge looked at me. Mr. Wade, you're saying you witnessed these conversations? Yes, sir, multiple times. I'm a night janitor. I'm invisible to people like Mr. Hartley. He never saw me, never thought about who might be listening, but I was there. I heard, I saw, and I'm willing to testify to all of it. The judge leaned back, thinking, processing. This changes things. Mr. Hartley, your counsel claimed Miss Hartley manipulated your father.
But if there's a witness to your attempts to coerce her, Marcus was pale now, furious, trapped. I want him investigated for perjury, I said. Probably overstepping, probably out of line. Didn't care. Because everything he said about her is a lie, and I can prove it. The judge looked at Elena, at me, at Marcus. I'm going to call a recess. 2 weeks. Mr. Wade, you'll need to give a formal deposition. Miss Hartley, you'll need to get proper legal representation. We'll reconvene on March 28th. Until then, all assets remain frozen. He banged his gavel, left. The courtroom erupted again. But I didn't hear it, just focused on Elena. She was crying, smiling and smiling at the same time. Why? She asked. Why would you do that? You could lose your job, could get sued, could… Because it's right, I said simply. Because I've watched you suffer alone for months. Because your father built something good and your brother wants to destroy it out of greed. Because sometimes people need someone to stand up, even if that someone is just a janitor who noticed things nobody else cared about. She hugged me, right there in the courtroom. Didn't care who was watching. Just hugged me and whispered thank you over and over. The next 2 weeks were chaos. My deposition, Elena finding a new lawyer who actually believed in her, Marcus trying to discredit me, calling me a liar, saying I was bribed, saying I had no proof. But buildings have security cameras, and I helped them find footage. Footage of Marcus on the 7th floor, footage of him yelling, footage that matched everything I'd said. The second hearing was March 28th. This time, Elena had a lawyer, had evidence, had me as a witness, had momentum. The judge ruled on April 3rd, in Elena's favor, completely. Marcus's claims were dismissed, his accusations thrown out. He was ordered to pay court costs and barred from any involvement in the company. Elena kept everything: the buildings, the company, the legacy. She cried when the ruling came through, called me immediately, thanked me, said she didn't know how to repay me. I told her there was nothing to repay. I just did what was right. But she insisted, offered me a job, not as a janitor, as head of building operations. Better pay, better hours, health insurance, college fund for my daughters. I almost said no, felt like charity. But then I thought about my girls, about opportunities, about how accepting help isn't weakness when it's earned. So I said yes. I've worked for Elena for 6 months now. Still feels surreal. I have an office, a desk, business cards with my name. People ask my opinion, treat me like I matter. But the best part isn't the money or the title. It's watching Elena thrive, watching her rebuild what her brother tried to destroy, watching her smile again, laugh again, be herself again. She told me once that I saved her life. I don't know about that. I just stood next to her when everyone else walked away. Just refused to let her face the wolves alone. That's all I did. Stand up, speak truth, choose kindness when cruelty was easier. I'm still Thomas Wade, still 42, still someone who started as a janitor. But I learned something in that courtroom, something about worth, about power, about what it means to protect someone. It's not about money, not about status, not about being important or powerful or recognized. It's about seeing someone who needs help and choosing to help, about refusing to let people suffer alone, about standing up even when you're scared, even when you're invisible, even when nobody expects it from you. I'm just one man, one janitor, one voice. But sometimes, one voice is enough. Sometimes it changes everything. If this story moved you, drop a heart, share it with someone who needs it, and follow for more stories that hit the soul.